March 12, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is what the charts look like today and how I marked it up. Look like in the pre-market, there was economic data that was released at around 5:30. There's the core PPI numbers, which it looked like it caused a rapid sell-off. This candle, this big red candle, actually happened in about 14 seconds. From here all the way down, it flashed in 14 seconds, then it bounced, and it took about 1 minute for it to recover the entire thing. So this is some really whipsaw action. Generally, you shouldn't be taking these kind of trades right there because it moved about 20 points, so it could like stop you out really quickly. Then there was another piece of economic data according to the Forex Factory at around 10:01 Pacific Standard, which is about right here. Kind of a small little blip, but it was the 10-year bond auction. Overall, the prices looked like it was going to be range bound. I thought it was range bound, but then it created pretty much like one leg up, two legs back down correction, then two smaller legs up, made this measured move, then a small little gradual sell off, and then a final big push back up. Now, this measured move kind of comes into play a little bit later for one of the trades I decided to take. Took a total of 2 trades and was profitable on both. Most of the setups I found were kind of clustered together. These big swings, I didn't find as many good setups. So I'm going to go through the trades now. So pre-market, you don't really know what's going on. I mean, I saw the small little range consolidation area here. It looked like it pushed up, pushed down. This is where the economic news came out. One leg up, break, tested the highs of this yellow channel, created the highs of the pre-market, lows of the pre-market. I marked it out. And so when I finally get to my desk, it's about right here. And I thought, okay, this looks like it's going to be a trading range day. Similar to yesterday, but except, it started a little bit earlier. Now keep in mind, there are two E-futures mini contracts being traded right now, the March and June contracts. The volume on the March contract is dropping a lot faster now because most people are rolling over to the June contracts. And so you're going to see a little bit more pickup. But seeing a sideways choppy day, I kind of thought it might be what would happen today just because people are shifting over their contracts. Prices move, it falls into this consolidation range. I don't see anything I particularly like. So technically a new high here, it's a first entry long. You don't get a second entry long till all the way down here. But here, even though it's a good signal bar, nothing here, tells you to really go long because it looks dangerous. Far from the EMA, there's no other key entry points to bounce off of or anything. So definitely not a long. You see this and definitely you don't think to go short either because you wouldn't say it's a first entry long failed second entry long just because it's so far from EMA. It's in the middle of nowhere. You don't want to take this trade. Breaks. And I did see this kind of as a hidden second entry short, but I didn't take it. I just saw it and it kind of happened rather quickly because you have a new low here, first entry short right here. The very next candle, it breaks one tick up and pushes back down. So technically it is a second entry short, but it's hidden. But there's no trade setup here because it's near the localized low. It's a break of this green channel, tested the lows already. So downtrend could have played out. It could be two legs down already, so it might be getting ready to reverse. But nothing here is telling you to get ready for a long trade either. So you just have to sit on your hands. Prices just kind of move, pushes up. It looks like the EMA is kind of holding. You have a first entry short. Unfortunately, you don't quite get a second entry short. You could argue it's a hidden second entry short, but it's not very clean. You have to go to a smaller time frame. Like a first entry short technically closed up here. It opened at the same level, so I don't really consider that a clean second entry short. It is a bounce off the EMA. I needed this candle to tick one tick up and then move back down. Then it would have engulfed this one very nicely and closed at the bottom. But it didn't do that, so I had to skip it. Prices move down. Kind of hits another consolidation area. Technically, you have a new high here. Well, not a new high, a swing high. First entry long, second entry long. I was wondering about this because it looked like it was bottoming out, but it still feels dicey to try to attempt a trade because this is a very tight range as well. Then prices move up. It moves into this yellow channel. The yellow channel fits pretty nicely. So I'm just watching it. There's no good second entries that I could find. You have a new high here, first entry long, Technically, I have a second entry long here, but it's a bad signal bar. A little far from the EMA, so no trade. Then it flashes up. It created this triple, I guess, triple bottom here. But here, when I saw this, I was still leery, or not leery, or weary of what could potentially happen because it still pushed down and touched the EMA before it moved up. But it reverses, and then it tests and makes a high of this break of this yellow channel. So I'm thinking uptrend may have played out. And it chops around. See a first entry long pull back. So here I found this after the fact. It's a second entry long. It's a doji candle. It's bouncing off the EMA, which is nice because the EMA looks like it's holding. It didn't quite get down to the EMA and it already reversed up. Here is a definitive almost touch, and then here for sure it's a touch of the EMA and bounced off. But here I wouldn't have thought of taking a trade because it's an inside bar, it's doji. I wanted a higher low confirmation. And in fact, if I did take this trade, I think there's a good possibility I would have gotten stopped out because I would have entered, say, one tick above here. My stop loss would have been one tick below this double bottom, which would also be coinciding with the bottom here. And it looks like it would have flashed out, potentially stopped me out, and then go back in the direction I thought. So this looked like it was kind of a small little trap. But the thing that kept me away was the signal bar wasn't very convincing. Prices move up. So it gives you the higher low confirmation that I was looking at. And I thought this is a possible trade, confirms the second entry long, first entry long, second entry long. I had this as a support, but I didn't really have this as a trading range yet. So I'm still playing trend line rules. I did draw this as a potential support of this orange channel that eventually became an orange channel. Saw this higher low. It is bouncing off this EMA. It's bouncing off the bottom of this orange channel. So there's two key entry points. This purple line doesn't exist yet. It shows up a little bit later. So potentially is a decent trade. It's enough room to the highs to get a comfortable scalp out. And it's a good signal bar. So this is a possible trade. Then I also saw this as a new low here because it's lower than everybody else. And first entry short, second entry short. This is a bad second entry short. And the second entry short has technically failed on this candle. But I was thinking if I wanted to take a trade, I'm already pressing against the potential highs of the potential resistance here. And I didn't like that. It looks like if you did enter, you would have gotten filled. And then this candle likely would have given you your scalp. Prices move up. Breaks out of this orange channel. It looks like it starts fitting nicely in this yellow channel. I don't see any really good setups yet. Technically, you do have a second entry long here, but it's tiny. New high. First entry long by one tick comes back. Second entry long. This isn't a very good signal bar. Too far from the EMA. It's already pressing against the tops of this localized high. Also the high of the day, which is this blue dotted line. This blue dotted line just marks the highest high of the day. And it just didn't look like it was very appealing to take that trade. Then it consolidates again. So now when it touches here, I end up drawing this purple line here. I said, okay, this looks like it's one touch, two touch, three touch. Looks pretty good. The top, a little more iffy. It's kind of touching at least once, but I do have this as a potential support because prices are clearly moving back up. And it looks like it's having some kind of respect. Unfortunately, even though there's a nice bounce off both this purple and EMA, there's no trade here, so I had to leave it alone. Flashes up, kind of keeps moving. Here it makes a measured move because I saw this is one leg up, sideways, and then it makes a second leg up. So it made a measured move. So I'm wondering if there might be some kind of correction coming up. Prices kind of consolidate, push around the two in this range. It's not a range yet though. I didn't draw this blue until later. I did have this one, but I didn't really have any setups in here. I drew this as a potential support and I put the top here, but I didn't really trust it as a range yet, but I did trust this as a potential support. Here it creates a new low, first entry short, pull back. This is a potential second entry short. Excuse me. Potential second entry short. It's like it's a break of this yellow down channel, made one attempt up, second attempt, and now it's probably going to come back down, maybe test the lows of this yellow down channel. Now, I also saw it as potentially this purple push up, be one leg down, a correction, two-legged correction up, and then a second leg down before it tries to come back up and test the highs. Nevertheless, it is a decent signal bar. There's some room to scalp out, but I didn't want to take this. And prices just came from a completed measure move, so they could be one leg down, two small legs, and a second leg down before it tries to another attempt up. So that's kind of how I saw it, but I didn't really trust my read of it yet, so I kind of left it alone. Prices then bounce. Here I did see a one touch, two touch, three touch. There's arguably a good triple test here, but these signal bars just weren't convincing enough for me because they're just kind of in the middle. They're more neutral, even though it's green, red, green. They're just a little more neutral. I needed this candle ideally to be closing more bullish. Then I also could have seen this as a count reset. It would have been a first entry long from this high, first entry long, second entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here anyways, but this signal bar wasn't very good because when you see this in real time, you're just questioning it. Then you see this flash, and then definitely it feels too late. So then you look and watch as it pushes all the way up to the top, almost makes this, it does make it to the other side, but there's no trade here. Now there's a little bit of a bullish bias. It kind of starts moving back down. I thought it kind of fit in this yellow channel coming down. I saw this as a very, well, even though I marked it as a triple test, it looks like it's more than a triple test because it pressed once, twice, three times, four times. And depending on how you count it here, it could even be counted as a fifth time. You could have said maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But anyways, it's kind of like a triple test. There's some kind of support here, but there's no trade to take. Bounces around. I see a failed breakout of this potential trading range. Creates a higher low here, but even though it's a higher low here, that's just it. It's just a higher low. It's coming from a failed breakout. It's potentially running back to the top of this trading range. But in the meantime, I wasn't sure how valid this yellow down channel was, so it could be potentially have a resistance here. So I wasn't sure, so I had to leave it alone. I don't know if this was even valid because it already had a break here and a break here. Maybe it was a little wider, but it fit pretty well. So I didn't want to take the chance of going long here, hitting resistance, coming back down, because this could be a failed breakout pullback. And on top of that, EMA is starting to come back down, and it could also act as a resistance. But it did work. It did push up. It hit, and it came back down. At this point, I drew this red trend line as a trend line resistance. It wasn't quite a channel yet because I didn't know where the bottom of the channel was. At one time, I was thinking maybe it's actually here. And I was playing something like this for a little while. And it bounces. I saw this as a triple test, but that's all I saw. There's no trade there other than a triple test. And the signal bar isn't the most convincing. Prices then continue moving. So technically, you could say this is like a new swing high here. It's a first entry long, second entry long here, but there's too far from the EMA. There's no real support to justify taking a trade here. The signal bar is terrible. Breaks down and below. Well's outside for a little while. At this point, I was thinking maybe it's actually a little bit lowered here. It's going to fit pretty well. Falls in this orange channel, but there's no trade setup that I could find. Technically, you have a new low here. First entry short, second entry short. This is a good second entry short signal bar. Unfortunately, it didn't hit the EMA to have a good rejection. And it was a little confusing because I wasn't sure if this red channel was going to come in play. And I was thinking it could be pushing back into this channel. It could be a failed breakout. And it turned out to be like a failed second entry short. When you see this failure, like a first entry short pullback, second entry short failure, you're running into the EMA now. So I don't want to go long, potentially get it stopped out right here at the EMA. The prices move up, kind of presses again, kind of moves sideways. There's second entry longs here, but there's just not very clean. It moves up, it breaks up and through. It doesn't really matter at this point, but I did kind of drag it down to something like this, but it didn't, I eventually put it down here, but it didn't really seem to matter all that much where the bottom was, because you could treat this as the bottom of the range, bottom of the trading channel, or you could treat it as an overshoot. Prices then consolidate. Actually, it breaks out of this green channel, makes one attempt up. It kind of matches, but it makes one tick higher and it pushes back down. This is actually where I take my first trade. It has been a long day. I saw this as a new high. I saw this first entry long, pull back, second entry long. Second entry long hasn't confirmed it. I like that there was a bounce off the EMA. I wasn't I wasn't thinking the downtrend is going to continue because this was a pretty wide channel, so it's hard to trust. This downtrend of this orange one did come down, and it looked like it already tried one attempt down, second attempt downtrend. Looks like it's played out, so now it's reversing. But after this break of this green channel, it looked like it was one attempt up, pull back. It could have been a second attempt up. I like that it bounced off the EMA. I like this as a potential signal bar. So I saw this as a failed breakout of this yellow channel. It touched ones, two, and it fit pretty nicely at the top. So it's one, two touch, three touch, break. And I was thinking it probably is going to move up, and it had enough room for a scalp. So I entered right at the highs to give myself a little bit less risk. And I also had a runner on it. So I kind of dragged my runner up to here at this point. Then as this moved, I dragged it up to here, right below this red one. And then when this one flashed down, I've dragged it pretty much to the low of the screen, and I was just stopped out pretty much one tick below. So it was a pretty decent trade. Prices move up, breaks out of this yellow channel. I didn't have this purple one established yet, but then now I did have a potential resistance and support here for the purple channel that looked like it somewhat fit pretty nicely. You do have a new high here, first entry long. Technically, have a second entry long here. It's a bad signal bar. If you waited for the trigger bar, it's also pretty bad. Moves up, it kind of consolidates into this range, is pushing up to this measured move. This measured move acted as resistance once, twice. Here it broke out, and now it seems like it's acting as support. Well, it seems like prices definitely want to move up. Breaks out of this range, and this is already past the 12:30 Pacific Standard Time, but I saw this setup and I decided to take it. It's a little riskier because it's past the usual trading time. I drew this one touch, two touch. I actually had this a little bit higher, three touch, but when I saw this touch here, I dragged it and made the contact one, two, three. The top side didn't matter as much to me because there was still a lot of clear room at the top. The way I saw it was it's in a trading range. It's one touch, two touch, three touch, potential triple test, bouncing off the bottom, bouncing off this purple up channel. And I like this as a potential signal bar. So when it opened, I put my trade at the highs. I was filled. I like when this close is still above and holding on top of the purple channel. I was able to quickly get a scalp out. I didn't run it. I didn't trade it with a runner. I just kind of took all the shares off right here with a one point 1 point scalp, mainly because there's no more time in the day, so I didn't really want to try to manage. And I just looked at the character of the chart. It didn't seem like it was going to have a crazy runaway effect in the last 30 minutes for me to even make a runner feasible. So I just kind of took the entire position off. Technically, you have a new low here. It's first entry short, second entry short. It's doji. It's not a very good signal bar. And it consolidates in this range, breaks out, but then now it's getting definitely too late because it's the last 10 minutes of the day. It moves into the close. Overall, it was a pretty interesting day. Most of the setups I found were kind of clustered together. I thought the higher low here was a good trade. And then, let me see, I think there was also another potential trade for a second entry short right here. And then I took these two trades a little bit later in the day. So overall, it was, even though the volume was pretty high, it didn't provide that many setups that I could identify as high probability. So hopefully that was helpful.